Speaker today, Vicki Seidl. It's not Seidl. It's kind of so Vicki Seidl, and she is a senior assistant prosecuting attorney. And as we were talking, just as we were eating, she's been in Grand Rapids as living as a resident for about 20 years. So she came in. Actually, I think it's been a little longer than that.
Yes.
Yeah, because you came in '93, so you've been in this position for 20 years. But since she came into Grand Rapids, all the change that's taken place, we were just talking about what downtown was like, what Grand Rapids and West Michigan was like versus how it is today. And she has been here. She actually went to school and got her law degree at Southern Illinois Law School, graduated with honors, another one of those accomplished people that ended up coming to Grand Rapids. But she was, when she moved to Grand Rapids, Court of Appeals staff attorney, became an assistant prosecutor, and then is now the senior assistant prosecuting attorney. She knows a number of the defense attorneys. We were talking, has good relationships with them, and a number of the judges, obviously, and a lot of the people that kind of come through and are Rotarians or have been through here. But she's been around, she's seen a lot of things and a lot of change. I'm excited to have you here. Please come on up and please welcome Vicki Seidl.
Good afternoon, everyone. As indicated, I've been in Grand Rapids for a number of years. Originally moved to Grand Rapids and was working in the pre-hearing division of the Court of Appeals, and then now I'm in the prosecutor's office. What I plan to do today, I don't have a slideshow or a PowerPoint or anything like that, but I was invited to speak today. I really just wanted to have an opportunity to speak with you in general about the prosecutor's office, and kind of in specific, the juvenile division of the prosecutor's office. To give you a bit of an overlay of that, the juvenile division of our office, we handle all personal protection order violations. We represent petitioners in those matters. We also handle all mental incompetency hearings. That's where somebody needs to be petitioned for involuntary hospitalization. We also handle all the protective proceedings that happen, that is in cases where parents are either neglectful or abusive to their children, and the children need to be made temporary wards of the court. And of course, we handle all juvenile delinquency cases, and that would be for anyone under the age of 17 who has committed a crime. It's my division's obligation to do whatever prosecution happens in those cases. So we do a variety of work. My thought today was I was going to focus mainly on the delinquency. And I think, I have to admit, I didn't know a lot about the Rotary Club before I came here for lunch today. But I think some of what I do will fit perfectly with some of the goals that my understanding that you have. In part doing mentorships and trying to work with, I think one of those saving mothers and children. That's a big priority. Through a number of things that we do in my office as well. So my plan is to kind of give you an overview of how we handle juvenile delinquent cases. Of course, I'm inviting, I know that at the end of it, I have a question and answer period. I'm one of those people who work much better if I know you're all listening. So if you raise your hand and you have a question, with two notable exceptions, Judge Markey and Judge Sawyer are not allowed to answer any questions. I did appellate work in our office for a number of years, and they got to grill me enough. No questions from those two. And anybody else that might be out there. So, just kidding. But I do like to have it that way. That way I know everybody's still awake after having this nice lunch. So, with the juvenile delinquency cases, our office, approximately for the last 5 years, has charged per year, between 21 and 2,500 juvenile petitions, so that, kids that we have charged with various crimes. And I'm going to start with some of the smaller ones that we get, all those crimes. We get retail fraud, the old-fashioned shoplifting. We get minors in possession of tobacco, alcohol. A number of cases where larceny under 200, some malicious destruction of property. And interestingly enough, those really happen a lot in schools when summer's out. And yet those are the same kids that are not in school during the course of the year. I don't know. I'm thinking they're trying to find out what's inside the school because they don't go where they're supposed to. So we get a number of those, and we also get a number of cases of truancy. Actually, a truancy program, we just started a truancy pilot program, working with Judge Feeney and Judge Denenfeld have been very helpful getting this off the ground, where we're trying to, the goal is not to make kids criminals or court wards if we don't have to, but the reality is, we all know, statistics absolutely pointed out, if you don't go to school when you're young, they call it the school to prison pipeline. If you don't go to school, your odds of ending up in prison increase dramatically. So we have a program in place where we're trying to make sure parents, we can charge parents with truancy. Once again, a lot of times there might be neglect issues, they might have some issues going on. Our goal, once again, is not to make criminals if people don't get their kids to school, but somewhere along the way you have to have teeth into what you're doing to get them to school. So that's our goal with that. With our truancy pilot program, it's basically a diversion program. We try to keep kids, not to be court wards, but make sure they go to school. So those are, in a nutshell, some of the major cases that we do handle. So how it works is, let's say I charge a kid with a retail fraud, 3rd degree. That means they stole something that was under a value of less than $200. We charge, and the next thing that happens is it goes over to court. And I want to put this out, the juvenile system is completely different than the adult. Our terminology is different. The consequences are different for the most part. There are some overlaps because with our really more serious crimes. But the main thing, our main goal is rehabilitation. Okay, we want consequences for children for their actions, so they know that there's consequences for wrong actions, but we certainly do not want to be ruining a child's life. You know, if you get them rehabilitated, they move on, it kind of just goes like it never happened, and everybody's the better for it. We have a productive member of society, and everybody's done their job. So when we charge, what I told you about, we do about 2,100, and that's not necessarily 2,100 kids. Sometimes they have multiple charges. But with those charges, when it goes over to the court system, they have what they call an intake procedure, okay? They'll go to intake probation officers, and of those, they can then decide, you know what, we don't need formal. We do not need a formal in front of our judges with this. We can do this on an informal process. We can divert it. We have an ABC program for shoplifters. We have another program for some minor alcohol use. So there's counseling that's available. All those cases basically just get diverted. And that's about 60 to 65% of the cases we send over. I never see again. With any luck, we never see those kids either because they've done the minor thing they need to do. And once again, those diversion programs, they're wonderful. Because what's behind them is the counseling, if they need it. We have a new one, hopefully none of our fine young students that were in front of us had engaged in this, but the new crime, so to speak, is, I call it sexting. Kids just decide they have to send naked pictures of themselves to each other. And then those pictures get sent somewhere else. We recently just had another program where we had an interactive computer thing where we can divert those kids. Because technically, and this is a weird dichotomy of the law, you can legally have sex if you're over the age of 16. But if you take a picture of yourself and send it to somebody, if you're under 18, you've just committed a 20-year felony. That we call distribution of child porn. So it's weirdness in the law, but those are the way that works. So, all right, so now we have my cases that have been diverted. Then we have the other cases where maybe the child had been on probation before, had a case that was diverted, and it's one of my more serious crimes. What happens next then is basically it would get set up for a pretrial conference. And most of these children are entitled, and or not most, you are entitled to an attorney. So you have attorneys appointed to them. We have an incredible list of attorneys who do appointment work. And I do actually get along with all of them, and it's not even unknown that I've joined a few of them at Miller Johnson for an after-go party it was, we called it one time. But, so we have a good working relationship with all the defense attorneys. We'll work out a plea agreement, and sometimes if they have to plea, okay? Those are usually going to be my larceny in a building, a 10-year felony. Sometimes we get home invasions. People breaking into other people's homes, and those then go formal. Those are the cases that they end up in front of a judge. Okay, then they're assigned a community probation officer, and hopefully there we get the issues all taken care of. And now sometimes people have said before, well, why do you make them plead to anything? Why don't you just get them the services? Remember, I said we have to have some consequences. And you do. They have to go in front of a judge and make a factual basis and explain what they did was wrong. We also have at those hearings our victims. And a victim is absolutely entitled to hear that person admit to what they did. At the end of any probationary period, an apology letter is required. Sometimes you have apology sessions with the victim. So that's just all helpful that the person who committed the crime can actually put a name and a face to the person whose property they damaged, or whose car they stole, or whatever it is they did. So it's very helpful to the juvenile so they don't do it again. And I forgot to mention, in Michigan, we're one of only 6 states that the age of responsibility is 17. There is legislation that's out there right now trying to raise the age to 18. So I keep saying to the county commissioners when that happens, I don't know if there's any in this room, that might require another prosecutor for my division. You know, I'm always lobbying for extra people to have jobs. We had a pre-law somebody here, maybe she needs a job in about 7 years. Is that you? There we go. And you're going Central? No.
Michigan State.
Michigan State, and you were Central. Good school, that was my undergrad. So, now that's in a nutshell what we do basically with most of our cases. Now we do have a number of more serious cases. If you read the newspaper, last year or a couple years ago, we had the 12-year-old who fatally stabbed the 9-year-old in the park. That was one of my cases. I presently have right now on my caseload 3 murder cases. The first one that I really ever had was a juvenile by the name, and I don't normally give juvenile names out, but these are being treated as adults, so we do. Keyshawn Mann, when he was 13, decided to kill his stepfather. He took a gun, put it up against his head, and pulled the trigger, killing his stepfather. He was 13 at the time. Now in Michigan, the prosecutor has the discretion, okay, to what we call designate or waive a child. If it's a designated case, that means we're trying the juvenile in the same manner as an adult, but in the family court division, okay? A lot of words basically to say, treat it as an adult, but we're still trying to use rehabilitation. Keyshawn Mann has been in an institutional placement. I have been to review hearings with him for 6 years now. I've gotten to know the victim's family very well. I've watched this kid grow. I'm hoping in the end he's one of our success stories. Part of his plea agreement was he had to plead guilty to 2nd-degree murder and be in an institutional placement until he's 21. I go at all of his review hearings and happy to say he's doing pretty well. Another one of the cases then, of course, was the recent one with Lawhorn, who unfortunately decided to kill a 9-year-old. And now he brings up what we have kind of a combo case. He was a neglect ward, and that kind of falls under our protective proceeding. I would say his childhood was less than ideal on any stretch of the imagination. So he kind of was a dual case for us. His dad lived in New York, really wanted nothing to do with him. His mom was just not doing what she needed to do to raise a kid that was not so angry as Keyshawn was. Keyshawn, and once again with him, now we had a trial for him, and he was found guilty by a jury, and in this case a jury of 12 people, of 1st-degree murder. And now for juveniles, in Michigan, it's a general rule, it's a mandatory life without parole if you're convicted of 1st-degree murder. But the exception is if you're under the age of 18, it's not an automatic imposition of that, of life without parole. Yes?
So, sorry, just to go back a little bit, was it just the severity of the crime that made you treat him as an adult instead of as a juvenile? And
Yes, because treating them that way, we get some flexibility. Okay, if we did a straight juvenile adjudication, and what that would be what it would have called, if you do a straight juvenile adjudication, the judge cannot maintain jurisdiction over that person till once they're 21, the judge would have to release them. Well, what happens if they're not really rehabilitated when they're 21? And if you think about it, that's only it'll be 8 years. For Keyshawn, it was only 7. Nope, I had that backwards. Only 7 for Lawhorn, and you know what I mean? So the time frame is it gives, because on their 21st birthday, or near their 21st birthday, what's gonna happen with those kids is a judge will say, all right, have you been rehabilitated? Is society gonna be safe with you in it? And if so, the judge can discharge him from court wardship. If they don't feel like he is, because I have another case, I'm not trying to backtrack on this, it'll go right back in this. We have another case where the child was 15, almost 16, when he fired 4 shots, and apparently a pretty good shot, because he hit his victim all 4 times, killing his sister's boyfriend. Interestingly enough, he became the uncle. The girl was pregnant, his sister was pregnant, so he unfortunately is the uncle of the child, parent. Now, he was only 15 or 16. What we did, you do a designated case, okay? Then, okay, let's think about that. It can only be for 5 years. If you're the victim's family, is 5 years really gonna be sufficient in your mind? That's all the longer you had to spend in any type of incarceration or any rehabilitation, and then you're free, and they're a person they're never gonna see again. So those are some of the factors. It gives judges a little more leeway of what they can or can't do with the juvenile. And like under the new law, because what happened is the United States Supreme Court made a finding that you can't just do that automatic. They are entitled to a hearing. Matter of fact, I don't know if you've been reading about some of that. There's a number of cases out of Kent County. They're called the juvenile lifer cases. They're all subject to being resentenced, because the new law says that if you don't impose life without parole, which is still an option, you can, then you'd have to impose, like, I want to say it's 40 to 60 years, okay? So they might have to spend 40 years in prison. Those cases are all coming up out of Kent County, because we've had a number of them who are under the age of 18 in our county with those cases. Yes, did I answer your question? Okay, yes.
What kind of success rate do you have with somebody who's under that age in actually helping them in a rehab setting while they're under some kind of detention?
Okay. That's always rather hard to judge how much success you do have. We just try to go on how many you don't get back at some point, as adults. For those early on ones I was talking about, the diversionary programs, or even ones that are on probation, 7, 8 months, really good. I think that's a real high statistic. I can tell you, the one I can actually judge is we have, for our criminal sexual conduct cases, the kids who have engaged in inappropriate sexual contact or penetration, those kids, Kent County has what they call an adolescent sexual offender treatment program. It's an awesome success. The recidivism rate is about less than 5%, which is huge. And it's, matter of fact, our program is modeled, other counties have looked at our program along with other states. So I'd like to say we're awesome and completely that it happens, but I can't.
But when you're dealing with murder or something
Right.
like that, I mean, that's even more serious.
It is, and I'm happy to be able to say that we never had that many, so I don't have a real baseline to tell you. I can think of one case prior to my becoming the head of our division, where there was a murder case, and it was almost more of a reverse bullying. The kid ended up shooting a shotgun through the door and killing the guy. I have never found that he was back, okay? Now, with mine that I have right now, like I said, I have the 3. They're all still under 21. I don't know what's going to happen with them. I like to think that it worked, because I'm going to tell you this, the institutional placement they're in is to the tune of about $100,000 a year. So the taxpayer of Kent County are really paying for this. And quite frankly, what's the alternative, I guess, if we don't? So hopefully, in the near future, we'll find out, because I have a feeling the judge is going to say to Keyshawn, you can go. Keyshawn, man, that you're free to go. But I don't know what he's going to do. He turns 21 in December of this year. Yes.
Of your offenders, what is the demographic breakdown? How does that match up with our city's demographics?
If everybody heard the question, it was what is the demographic breakdown? You know, that's kind of hard. We don't keep that stat in our office. So I would have to be saying more anecdotal with what we have. I certainly get my share of African Americans, but we get Caucasian, Hispanic. I get less girls, although for some reason there's a little bit of uptick with that. And quite frankly, some of it happening in our sexting cases. But from all spectrums, I can absolutely assure you that I've had juveniles in court from every single school in this county. So there's not just because you happen to go to Catholic Central, West Catholic, or somewhere else that you're not committing some sort of crime. And quite frankly, like I said, we don't keep that stat. I don't know that we've ever thought it was necessary. That's a good question, but I just don't have a real answer to it. Oh, sorry, you had a question?
My daughter did a clerkship in the family court where she said the hardest part of the job is trying to keep a straight face. Other than hanging out at Miller Johnson, how do you deal with that?
I mean, it's, with what we do, with the trauma of what it is. I will admit, it can be very, some of the things we see on a given day, we certainly have some animal cruelty cases. I have some very difficult sexual assault cases and armed robbery cases. I guess the best thing we can do, we do kind of laugh about stuff, but it would be very inappropriate on its face, so I'm not going to do that. But we never do it, hopefully, in a demeaning way. It's more of you have to have some stress relief on it. You just talk to people. You hope you have a good family to talk to at the end of the day, and do that kind of stuff. And it's never unheard of that you might have a pop or two somewhere, right after work. So, and not driving. So, yes, sir.
What sort of long-term consequences regarding employability are there for the kids? That is, what crime then plagues you when you're 25 or 30?
I don't know if everybody's heard the question, but it was basically what would be the long-term ramifications for possible future employment for the juvenile. If it's not a designated or waived case, those are all juvenile adjudications. They don't, like on a college application, it'll say, have you ever been convicted of a crime? Well, they can honestly say, no, I haven't. I had an adjudication. And that's why that terminology I started off with is so important, because it's so different. Unfortunately, in some of my designated cases, those murder cases, I have some armed robbery cases, CSC cases, it's a felony conviction on their record for the rest of their life. We do try with our CSC cases, my prior boss, Bill Forsythe, and my present boss, Chris Becker, we do everything we can to keep those juveniles off the sex registration list, because that can really have some massive ramifications for the rest of your life. And we don't worry about it quite as much because of that ASOTP program I was talking about earlier. But it absolutely can have some drastic consequences for their lives. That's for sure. Did somebody else? Yes.
Can you talk about the availability and access to mental health services and the impact that has on both the people coming in to your office and the aggressors and the treatment and recidivism?
I'm going to speak specifically to juveniles because we are actually trying to do some more innovative things with some of the adults because the law is a little different. When I have a mental health case, as a matter of fact, I have 3 of them I can think of right now where the children were found incompetent to stand trial, okay? And when that happens, I kind of have to dismiss the case. The adult system has it where they can get into a mental health facility through a forensic center or something like that, so you can help them. The juvenile system, unfortunately, we don't. I'm kind of stuck in those types of cases, what exactly to do. I have a case up next week where a mother is frantic because her son is just out of control. He clearly has some mental health issues because he's engaged in sodomy with an animal. And we're at a loss what we're going to do with him if he's found to be incompetent to stand trial. So is that a need in this community to try and figure out the best way to handle some of our kids who have mental health issues? Absolutely. If they're in our system though, sometimes we do have some ability to get counselors and help for them. Yes?
At what point then would you have them involuntarily hospitalized?
Well, that's always a good question with that. Sometimes the parent is the person who would need to do that because they'd be the one that would be petitioning them to do it. Quite frankly, our office can't really do it. And well, we can sometimes if it's a guilty but mentally ill type thing. But if you recall, I started off by saying our office represents petitioners in the, now I am going to be the, well, almost not the judge, I have a judge, but I'm going to be the prosecutor and the jury, so to speak, with those cases.
One last question?
Nope. Go ahead. Now there's another face from my past. Okay, Kay, go ahead.
Not in a bad way.
No, wonderful way. I should clarify that. That's as good as not showing up with your pants. Okay, a CPS worker from past.
Vicki, in the 3 cases that are the children that are at the highest level, what was the history regarding those children with involvement from Protective Services?
Okay, the question on that would basically be what, with my 3 murder cases, was CPS, Child Protective Services involved? Clearly with Lawhorn involved. Man, none. We never even had a call to that house. The police had not been involved in any domestic violence situations, which is sometimes what you get. They've been abused or something. Not in that case. And quite frankly, in the other case, when the kid was 15, he had a little delinquency history. So I had one case where I definitely know I had some protective service issues going on, and the other 2, none. But that's, of course, as you well know, we can't catch everybody. It's, you know, there's a lot of people that need help that we just can't get help to. So.
Thank you, Vicki, for that, and obviously there's probably more questions that we'd like to ask, and pleased, Kay, to know that you have a clear background and that you were not part of that history. We would like to say thank you for your time by offering you the certificate, which shows that we're going to donate a clean water filter to a needy family in Nicaragua in your name and appreciation of the time spent with us today. And I'd also like to provide you with an opportunity to become a member of the Rotary Club. If you'd like to learn more about it, you can fit that right inside there also. But thank you for your tireless work. We're glad you are representing us and our children. So thank you for that. And if I may get you to come into the middle of our group, and we can take a picture of you right out here. We'll go right by Tom. Yeah, you don't know which Tom.